Ladies and gentlemen, a pretty massive yet degenerate content creator in the art community by the name of Synnibear03 that has about 500,000 subscribers has managed to slither their way back onto YouTube after some pretty insane Google Docs dropped last year that pretty much exposed this person as an absolute monster in their community, such as having a 13+ Discord server where some of the members of this Discord server were basically sent not safe for work content by, again, this Synnibear person who was 20 years old at the time, sending this type of content, having these types of discussions with people as young as 14 years old. There are also some essay allegations put out by Synnibear's roommate, Jack, aka Birdie, who is also a content creator, though it's quite obvious that this creator is very controversial. Just one search of their name kind of says it all. Synnibear03 tried to apologize. The sins of Synnibear03, YouTube's most degenerate fangirl, right? You have to scroll quite a bit to actually get to their channel and actually find their newest upload, Final Apology, which is essentially 9 minutes of Synnibear kind of giving their updated side of this situation.
I tended to only really interact with people who would indulge in my interests. Once we started to speak more frequently, I started sharing things with Enno that I reasonably shouldn't have, and it quickly devolved into me sending them explicit content. To be absolutely clear, this did not include nude pictures of myself or Enno. I wasn't attracted to Enno in any way, I just shared a lot of explicit artwork with them and written scenarios.
They have tried to put out apologies or statements in the past that obviously did not do so well. People did not like what they were hearing because, truthfully, when it comes to allegations like this, situations like this that are backed up by evidence, and of course you admit to them, you can't really apologize. That's one of those things where, yeah, it's time to hang that hat up, right? Those YouTube play buttons you got, it's time to pack them away and just send them off to somewhere. You know, you've reached EDP status. So let's just get into their apology.
Hello, my name is Synnibear03. I know this video is probably unexpected, but I've been really unhappy with the last 2 videos I made for a long time now. I made both videos way too soon after everything happened. My first apology video wasn't truly an apology, it was more so a reaction video to my own exposure. And the second response video was heavily puppeted by other people, and that one in particular I really despise. I'm hoping this video will serve as a better response and apology, and hopefully it can make up for the previous videos I've made. I met Enno through another YouTuber, the details of which are not very important. At first, I wasn't very interested in being their friend, and while they were persistent in checking in on me and trying to start conversation with me, I wasn't very receptive. It honestly should have stayed that way. However, we started talking a lot more frequently when my interest became the topic of conversation. This is a pattern of behavior I've only been able to recognize recently. I tended to only really interact with people who would indulge in my interests. Once we started to speak more frequently, I started sharing things with Enno that I reasonably shouldn't have, and it quickly devolved into me sending them explicit content. To be absolutely clear, this did not include nude pictures of myself or Enno. I wasn't attracted to Enno in any way, I just shared a lot of explicit artwork with them and written scenarios.
Now, I don't know if it's just me, but this is like a very common response that people give during their apologies when they get exposed for something like this. No shade to Pyrocynical, but this is like the exact same thing he said where when he ended up getting exposed and whatnot, he pretty much was like, I didn't actually like the minor involved, right? So he was able to get away with it, but in the case of Synnibear, because Pyro was also able to basically say the Discord server, like the roleplay server that he was involved in, was 18+, right? Yeah, he's still accidentally engaged in those types of interactions with a younger person, but he had plausible deniability. He was able to essentially get away with it, get his name cleared as this all just being a huge misunderstanding. Again, you can't really pull that card if you're someone like Synnibear who created this server for 13 and up people, and you knew this person's age when you decided to do this.
I will be honest, saying all of this out loud at this point in time makes me feel ill. While now I can recognize that what I've done is incredibly disgusting, at the time I didn't anticipate the kind of harm that this would do to them. It's gonna sound completely deranged, but I knew it was wrong in the sense that it was taboo and you weren't allowed to do it, but I didn't exactly see the harm in it.
Again, another statement that does not help her case at all. If anything, kind of justifies the reason why she should never be on the internet again. There are certain people who just are not meant to be content creators, and they get super lucky and they get super popular, right? Synnibear somehow has 500,000 subscribers. A lot of it comes down to like animations they made close to a decade ago at this point, right? It's not really like their personality was what was blowing them up, right? And this is a good example of someone who literally does not know in their head why possibly doing this type of thing with a underage person would be a problem.
When I was a child, I developed a porn addiction. I was looking at a lot of pornography as a kid, and I didn't exactly see the harm that it had done to me, and so I didn't see the harm in showing it to a child. Eno had already seen bits of my graphic work before they were talking to me, and they showed interest in wanting to see more, and so I didn't see the issue.
Again, at this point in life, like phones, right? Every single person has a phone. Every single person has a console that has an internet browser. Even TVs have internet browsers nowadays. You cannot escape that type of, adult content. Someone myself, very young age, I stumbled onto a phone with an internet browser, found my way onto some websites, and never once in my life have I thought, you know what? I watched this stuff pretty young. Let me show this to some younger folks. No, that's just not moral. That's just, again, not a normal thing that I think any person would do.
I shouldn't have been talking to Eno at all. I'm now a lot more aware of what this kind of stuff can do to a developing mind. And I'm honestly truly devastated knowing that Eno will have to carry this with them for the rest of their life because of what I did.
Now, I'm going to skip forward just a little bit. She pretty much apologizes to this Eno person, the 14-year-old who essentially got swept up, you know what I mean? And just says, I'm sorry, I wish it didn't come to this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, a lot of us wish it didn't come to this. Again, like we've heard it a few times now, it doesn't really change anything. So I'm just going to skip to the next part.
Now, while what I did to Eno was one of my most egregious things I've done, they are far from the only person I've hurt. There are other people I feel the need to apologize to. This segment is in regards to any and all friends I've ever had in the past. There's honestly too many to count and too many to name. As far back as I can remember, I've always had this repeated dynamic with some of the friends I've had. It was very common for me to discuss sexual topics with my friends. And while this can be normal for friendships, I would talk about sex in my sexual fantasies constantly, to the point where I've neglected my duties as a friend in favor of using my friends as an outlet for my sexual desires. I didn't realize just how badly I was mistreating my friends until way later.
Again, not normal. Synnibear here in this entire video seems to put a lot of what's happening on like her past addictions and trauma from like consuming this content growing up, which again, I have engaged in consuming this content growing up. Do I wish I didn't consume, adult content growing up? Sure. Do I think it would affect my life now? Of course, I do think that as well, but never in my life have I made friends and used them for gratification of that type of content. Never once have I thought of sharing this type of content with younger people. And a lot of it just tries to come down to Synnibear looking for something to blame. When in reality, sometimes people just do bad things, right? Not everything is going to have a reason, right? Like you might hurt somebody. It doesn't mean you hurt somebody because you played video games that were violent for 20 years, right? I don't know. It just comes across as not authentic.
As I've mentioned previously, I've had an addiction to these sexual materials for a large portion of my life, so I just wouldn't stop talking about it.
Now, she basically just repeats the exact same things that she did with the 14-year-old part, just regarding her friends, so I'm going to skip that. And then she talks about Jack, aka Birdie, who was her roommate, who put out the video that caused Synnibear to reply to all of these allegations in Google Docs, essentially beginning the downfall.
Since we're on the subject of friends I've mistreated, I do want to talk about Jack for a little bit. While I don't believe my actions would be considered SA, I do think there was a lack of communication when it came to touching. Despite our best efforts to communicate effectively, there were things that I missed or didn't take seriously. I think a lot of people could see that we were fairly intimate with each other. In all honesty, we didn't have very clear boundaries with each other. Jack had admitted to me one time that he didn't even know what his boundaries were. We felt comfortable exploring that territory together. Jack has claimed that I've made touches that he didn't consent to and that he said no to, and I believe I told him that I thought he was joking when he told me no. My memories of these instances were pretty fuzzy, and they still are, even more so now. There's a chance I was misreading his tone, and that's why I thought he was joking. Whatever my intentions were, I can tell that I've clearly hurt him. I never wanted Jack to feel uncomfortable, and I do feel sorry for not being able to recognize his discomfort.
And I don't really have a lot to add in this situation. Obviously, this person, Jack Birdie, made allegations of a potential SA, to which Synni just basically admitted, okay, yeah, that happened, sorry. There's not a lot to really add there. I'm not going to be like, well, technically, no, like, it's not really worth diving into. If someone says no, that means no, unless if there's directly an element of like some consensual, non-consensual stuff going on that you both have that agreement on and you both understand that's exactly what's happening, which doesn't seem to be the case because Birdie themselves said they don't know what their boundary is. That probably means don't push the boundary, right? That means no.
I also want to apologize for some of the threats I had made after he left. At the start of my exposure, I was filled with really intense feelings of betrayal and rage, and I said a lot of things that I didn't really mean. I angrily said I wanted to kill Jack multiple times. I never intended to follow through with those statements. I was only speaking out of hurt. Some people were showing concern that I had bought a bunch of weapons one night. None of those weapons were meant for Jack. I just bought them to make myself feel safer in my house.
And this right here might be another point that I don't really want to throw my hat into because I don't know, right? I can't tell what this person's intentions were. It is weird that if someone starts making allegations about you and, you know, your life's kind of crumbling down and you start posting your weapons with some little hints at someone else, it's not going to be viewed in a good way.
I've been struggling to understand what exactly I want from this video. I've wanted to make an apology video for a long time, but it's been really difficult to revisit everything that happened. I've also been scared that making this video would only serve to make me feel better and just reopen old wounds for the people I hurt. I don't know what will come of this video, but I hope I can give everyone some peace of mind knowing that I've learned a very painful but ultimately needed lesson. I know I've hurt a lot of people, both directly and indirectly, and I want everyone to know that I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt any more people. And I honestly think I've come a very long way from where I was before. It's been a difficult process, unlearning my harmful behaviors, and it took longer than I'd like to stop feeling sorry for myself long enough to truly reflect on what I had done and why I did it. I meant what I said when I stated I wanted to change and didn't want to hurt anyone ever again. I just wasn't yet ready to prioritize the difficult things. I now have friends who are kind to me, but they lovingly hold me accountable and aren't afraid to correct me. In fact, it's because of them that I've finally found the strength to finish this video.
And there we have Synnibear's final apology. Again, there's nothing to be gained, right? The career of Synnibear has come to a close. I guess this is just their way of just putting the final nail in the coffin themselves compared to, again, like I showed you, allowing all the other YouTubers who've made videos talking about and summarizing this whole situation. She admitted to everything, blames a lot of it on, you know, having an addiction to certain inappropriate things, and just overall being confused on certain things. I don't know. We've seen worse apologies. We've seen better. We've seen worse allegations. We've seen better in terms of like people have beaten allegations and whatnot. And that's where I'm going to wrap the video up, ladies and gentlemen. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know down below what you think of this statement from the most degenerate art YouTuber on YouTube. Peace out.